This is Tracer Talks, conversations with top industry experts on trending topics for brands and digital risk protection, featuring your host, Tracer CEO, Rick Farnell.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Tracer Talk series. Today, we're going to be talking to Lilla Berdi, our Tracer Customer Success Manager based in Europe. And the Tracer Talk today is going to be protecting brands and IP in the U.S.-China trade war. Lilla, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's get things going. There's lots and lots of talk. You cannot open up your TV or your phone or look at a newspaper and not see what is happening in the rebalancing of trade across the world. The United States recently has put tariffs on numerous countries. We're going to talk today about kind of the impacts of the tariff war between U.S. and China, and specifically what that means for brands. So, Lilla, with the U.S.-China trade war, how is intellectual property going to be affected, and what should brands be thinking about?
There are a lot of aspects we need to consider. So with higher tariffs, there's an increased risk of counterfeiting for all of these brands. It might strain enforcement efforts as well, coming from our side. There are some technology transfer concerns as well. U.S. firms might be pressured into sharing intellectual property information to have market access, and U.S. companies in general in China may face other challenges as well, considering their IP and their IP protection.
And we know about what enforcement means, but if you don't mind, just for the audience, explain, like, when we say enforcement, what does that actually mean?
By enforcement, we basically mean removal or reporting of goods. So most of the times these can be done without having to, be in touch with a law firm. So most of the marketplaces, most of the social media platforms have their own machine for this, where we feed the information to them, what we think is infringing or what is confirmed to be infringing, and then they have their own takedown processes for that. So this is the enforcement we mean, like the removal of illegitimate products.
There's a couple of aspects, right? There's the removal of the digital distribution, so the way in which these products are sold on either China marketplaces or other marketplaces. But then there's also the removal of the physical products. And that's a nuance that I think it's a really important one. So when we think about the ongoing issues that we might run into for, say, the digital removal, talk a little bit about what's going to happen here.
I mean, we live in a digital world, I feel like, more than ever, right? So like we do have the physical goods that are already produced in the factories, but they need to be sold. And there is offline market, but there is also the online market. And the whole world, but mostly China, is really affected and mostly controlled by what you have access to through online platforms, social media, all of those. So by not allowing access for consumers through online marketplaces or social media platforms, because that's also very, very prominent now in China and the rest of the world as well. We basically stop the factories as well from producing more and more products, because they won't be anybody buying them, because it won't be available for a very big percentage of the world for the consumers.
So I guess if we're going to see an increase in the companies inside of China that are able to manufacture more counterfeits, in theory, we should see potentially more counterfeits hitting all platforms, not just Chinese marketplace platforms and social media platforms. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, yes.
So I would imagine it's going to become really important. If it's not already, it's going to become even more important for brands to increase their brand protection strategies to kind of stay ahead of the influx and the increase of counterfeits. Maybe elaborate a little bit there.
Yes, and the challenges there are not only that they're going to be more counterfeit, also because China might also, in retaliation, be less strict with their enforcements and like IP enforcements in general. So we might bump into more and more hurdles when it comes to not only us as like a company, but in general, US companies trying to enforce their IP on Chinese marketplaces and in the world. It's going to be a bigger challenge because the marketplaces are going to be less likely to remove and we're going to have more pushbacks on non-Chinese IP rights. So there's a lot that companies can do to prepare for this, but we need to understand what we're preparing for.
Yeah, and I think it's we and everyone in the brand protection industry. This is not like this is a Tracer thing or one of our competitors. Everyone is going to be facing this. So it's really making sure that you have strategies best as possible with all of our Chinese partners, and we have really wonderful relationships with them, but also making sure that we are really, really diligent with social media, social selling, all the other marketplaces globally that might see an increase in counterfeit goods. Is
Yeah.
that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It is now more than ever important to have good relationships in China and presence in China and knowledge and up-to-date knowledge in China in the IP world.
So let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. So AI is also another, before the tariff wars and what's happening right now with the redistribution of global trade. Artificial intelligence is something that everyone in every industry and every age group is talking about the impact. We're seeing a dramatic increase in the use of AI by bad actors to have really, really great content and scaling capabilities for the threats that they're putting out. Maybe talk a little bit about some of the artificial intelligence that we are building here at Tracer that's going to help brands kind of stay at least on par, if not a little bit ahead of the bad guys.
As you said, we're already using AI all over. We're also leveraging that. And since we already talked about bigger number and the more platforms that are going to be affected by this, I think how AI is going to help us is basically save a lot of time so we can have more. We can target our efforts on the more nuanced cases, and everything that is just a numbers and time game is going to be done by AI and is going to be filtered by AI and is going to offer the solutions to us in bulk. The keyword here is bulk because we are going to talk about big numbers. That's definitely how we can leverage it. And then the human element is everything that is a little more dependent on the knowledge or dependent on the the input from the human side.
We have rolled out Flora. Flora has dramatically helped us with removing noise. So to your point, filtering out all of the irrelevant and not related to the brands that we're talking to, or free speech, fair use of some of those terms. Flora is doing a pretty amazing job in allowing our experts to focus just on the potential threats. Also, we're seeing Marlin with our computer vision capabilities playing a more increasing role in counterfeit. The use of imagery is something that is shared with shoppers in order to get them to buy. So picking up subtle little things with how the bad guys are either using the actual images, or if they're utilizing generative AI techniques to change it in some way. So some of those techniques is really important for us to focus on with what you do. So customer success here at Tracer. Talk about the benefit of that noise removal, and what does that mean for you and how you're able to deliver quality service back to our customers.
So, noise is inevitable because mainly, again, going back to China, I spent a lot of years working on Chinese platforms and I do enjoy. The language is very nuanced, and the consumers in China do take advantage of that, right? So a lot of times the keywords on Chinese platforms are not going to be anything that you can use on European or US or any other platform. Not only because, of course, it's a different language, also because they get very creative with their keywords. So sometimes setting up these keywords to look for certain products, it's going to bring in a lot of noise because it's not going to be related to the brand or the product or anything. It's going to be a creative like iteration. Louis Vuitton, for example, it's a very famous like a very famous brand, a very famous example where the LV kind of sounds like the word Lu in Chinese that means donkey. So they would say the donkey bag. It has nothing to do with Louis Vuitton, but that's a keyword you're going to look for. But if you put donkey bag on any platform, you're not going to find, like, you have to have this knowledge. So of course I'm going to use these two keywords and put it on any Chinese platform. I'm going to get not a lot of noise, which I don't have to deal with manually anymore because combined with all the other technology that we have, it's going to recognize, oh, I only need this data to get this result, and everything else I don't even need, a human doesn't even need to look at. And we're only left with the ones that we actually have to evaluate.
Well, so kind of diving back into the trade wars and this tariff war that we're seeing, maybe with your knowledge of how kind of our world works, what are the risks of some retaliatory actions against U.S. companies?
So in case of the trade tensions escalating, there are a lot of ways for China to retaliate. They might reduce the enforcement efforts that we were talking about before. They might allow counterfeit goods and knockoff industries to thrive basically in China and then seeping out of China in one way or the other. US companies might encounter bureaucratic hurdles when it comes to seeking legal recourse in Chinese courts or just a simple marketplace or social media enforcement as well. We could see that in everyday life. There's also a risk of cyber espionage because the increased restrictions could lead to more aggressive cyber tactics by China to access IP, technology, fashion innovation, entertainment. It really is there's so many ways it can affect and they can retaliate that this is just a very short list of many things.
So, Lilla, let's maybe sum this up. So, how can U.S. companies protect their IP in light of some of these escalating risks and these new areas that are going to start really impacting their business strategies?
So keeping ourselves educated is very important, of course. Keeping ourselves up to date, or well, the brand owners. It's very important to register IP early in China, even if you think that it's not a market that is interesting for you right now. Do register because in China they have the first to file trademark law, meaning they don't care who the owner is in Europe. If you're the first person to file it or register it in China, you are the trademark owner. And later on down the road, this can cause issues for non-Chinese companies. So register early on, both in Chinese and in your own language. Companies need to invest in cybersecurity as well, and they also need to reevaluate supply chains because these tariffs are it's gonna be a butterfly effect basically, because maybe you're able to produce everything within your own country where your headquarters are, but the elements that you use or the material that you use to produce your product is going to be affected by these tariffs as well. So you just need to see the big picture and brace yourself and keep yourself educated.
And how do you see companies' investments in brand protection? Typically, brand protection is kind of an afterthought. In a lot of cases, it's when there's problems. But maybe talk a little bit about, with this escalation and with this focus now, do you see brand protection actually coming more to the forefront, similar to a heavy investment in cybersecurity?
I would hope so. It is the right approach, let's say, because counterfeiting and IP infringements in general have been existing for the longest time. So knowing that maybe you're not at risk right now, but you will be in the future as you spend more money on your marketing and your sales, and the more people are interested in your product, may it be a physical product or anything, there will be knockoffs sooner rather than later. And if you don't take the necessary precautions, you might face a bigger problem than spending, some money right now and brand protection, securing your brand, making sure that there's no surge, because once there is a surge, large, it's a lot harder to stop on all marketplaces. If you keep it at bay and if you're aware of basically the presence of your brand online, that costs a lot less than putting out all the fires that come with all what happens later when you become a popular brand.
Well said, Lilla, and some terrific advice for brand owners. Really appreciate your time. Let's shift into a fun section of Tracer Talks. We're going to go into rapid fire. So whatever comes into your mind, just go ahead and roll with it. All right.
Okay.
What would you choose to eat for your last meal?
I'm going to be honest with you, probably something Chinese, like Chinese soup dumplings.
Oh, there you go. All right. And maybe from
On
all of your
theme.
time you spent in Beijing and living in China. There you go. What superpower would you choose?
Uh, oh, what's the name when you can like appear somewhere magically?
Teleporting or
Like
yeah.
teleporting. Yeah, teleporting probably.
All right. Most productive time of your day.
Oh, evenings and nights.
Cats or dogs?
Cats. I have the cat tree there.
What is your drink of choice?
Um, Non-alcoholic would be something bubbly, like bubbly water, like a club soda. Alcoholic would be something with mezcal.
Mezcal. There you go. All right. Favorite genre of music?
Electronic.
Nice. EDM. There you go.
Yeah, festival
Uh,
season coming up.
fa- Favorite pizza toppings?
Ooh, anything with truffles.
Okay. What is your most prized possession?
Can my cat be my most prized
Absolutely.
possession? Probably him, yeah.
This is your world, Lilla.
And it's ruled by my cat.
I love it. I love it. Okay, and last question. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Probably to make myself happy because I'm the person who spends the most time with myself.
Ah, great advice. Great advice. Well,
Thank you.
Lilla, really appreciate your time. Thank you for what you do for us and what you do for all the brands that you protect. Thanks, everyone. That was Lilla Berdi, Tracer Customer Success Manager. Thanks, everyone, for your time today.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Tracer Talks. To see more content on brands and digital risk protection, visit our website, tracer.ai.